Morry, the co-founder and marketing director of ClarkMorgan.
Thank you very much for SBR for inviting me back to talk again about sales. It's a personal passion of mine and something that I've always been interested in since coming to China 12 years ago. As Gutierrez said, my name is Morry Morgan. I'm the co-founder, marketing director of ClarkMorgan Corporate Training. I used to be the GM. I used to be the Lao Ban. A bit of a shock to some people. I'm not the Lao Ban anymore. I'm not the GM because I found someone who can do a better job than me, my managing director. And I think that's important if you're building any kind of team. It's important to look at yourself as well as part of that team. And sometimes we outgrow our positions. That's something that you might come across in your experience here in China. We don't want to live beyond our time, perhaps. I've worked here in China for 12 years. I've also been publishing a magazine called Network HR, which is a human resource magazine. It's Chinese is Renshiju. And this magazine, I guess, exposes me to the human side of business. I get the advantage of having the 2 points of sales and HR meet together, and that, of course, brings us to today's topic, which is about building successful sales teams and multicultural sales teams at that. I'm also an author, so I've written a book called Selling Big to China, and another book more recently called Managing the Millions, Practical Human Resource in China. So again, these two passions of mine, sales and HR, come together in today's presentation. I'm going to be talking about some of my successes, but I'm also going to be highlighting some of my failures, because I think that we don't learn much from success, do we? We learn more from failure, as long as we can get back up again, as long as there's another day. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my successes, but a lot about my failures over the last 12 years. Because over those last 12 years, I've experienced SARS. Some of you in this room may have been here for SARS. It was a shocking time. No one knew where the disease was coming from. At one time it was thought it was caused by dogs, then cats, and then Canadians. So it was a bit of a shock. Foreigners were given a white berth down the street, and we all found out later that the Canadians were all clear, so that was good news. And then the global financial crisis happened. Being an Australian, we don't call it the global financial crisis. We're too busy. We call it the GFC. So if you ever hear those letters GFC, that's an Australian talking. And I survived that business as well and continued on and grew successfully. So that's where I've been. Let's now talk about the topic today, which is on building successful cross-cultural sales teams. And I should add the word seamless as well, because that was added. I think that was more of a marketing spin though, because I honestly don't think that anything in life is seamless. I think you need to have seams. If you don't have seams, things pop out, don't they? You need to have strong seams. And I'm going to talk about the background, but before I talk specifically about China, let's talk about something you're not meant to do when you present, and that's with a joke. So they say that heaven is a place where the French are chefs, the Italians are lovers, the British are police, and the Germans are the mechanics. Do you agree? Yeah? And therefore, hell is a place where the British are the chefs, the Germans are the lovers, the Italians the police, and the French are the mechanics. Some may disagree, of course. Perhaps hell is also a place where Australians do stand up as well. So, what am I talking about? I'm talking about stereotypes, aren't I? I'm talking about stereotypes. And stereotypes come from culture. And just like in this last joke, there are positive stereotypes and there are negative stereotypes. The French, wonderful cooks, right? The police, perhaps not so much. The British are wonderful police, but cooking, not famous, although they do have some tasty dishes. So culture is what we're talking about here. Now, when one person does it, we call it habit. When a group of people do it, we call it culture. And the problem with culture is that it is a sacred cow. The word culture becomes something that we join to, that we bond to, that we find similarity in. And that's the problem. That's the problem, because culture is a sacred cow. It's incredibly difficult to change. And as I said with my example, the jokes of those nationalities, not all cultures are positive. I think we'll agree. The pictures beside that you can see on my left and right are some negative cultural attributes. And they often start, sadly, at a very young age. So whether it's violence or overeating, whether it's a passion for guns or smoking, or even just sleeping in class, if everyone does it, that habit becomes culture. And when it becomes culture, it becomes very difficult to change. And that's why you're here today. You're here today because you have a sales culture that needs to change. You have a sales culture that's not perfect. You have a sales culture that works back home, but doesn't seem to be working here. So I'll warn you, it's a culture. It's going to be hard to change. Hopefully, I'll be able to help you. But before I do that, you have to come to the realization that you are part of the problem. And when I say you, I'm excluding the Chinese in this. So if you're a Chinese, please ignore this. This is just for the foreigners. Yes, foreigners, you are part of the problem. Because, of course, you have your own culture. Whether you come from the States, from the subcontinent, whether you come from Europe, or in my case, Australia, we're all born with a culture. We have a culture of our cities, culture of our town, even a culture of our suburbs as well. So we're part of the problem. Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. If we look at the Harvard Business School's definition of a strong leader, this is what we're aspiring to. These are the 8 qualities of a top leader, according to the Harvard Business School. And you'll look down that list and you'll probably agree that these are some suitable qualities to maintain. Capacity for passion, perceptive, creativity, organizational skills, teamwork, persistence, open-mindedness, and integrity. I think you'll all agree that having these 8 qualities would make you a better leader. I'll add that IBM did a survey of 1,500 CEOs, and they found that creativity was number 1. What about China though? Is the culture here the same? Yes. So this is part of the challenge. Maybe it's not. And in fact, I found out that it isn't. So I did a survey on 203 white-collar Chinese employees working for multinational companies, working for companies like you. And I simply asked them, what are the qualities of a leader? What are the qualities of a leader that you would like to work for? So if you're going to build a sales team, you need to be the right leader. And they came up with these 10. Now, this survey was on a very small sample size, I'll be fair, it was 203 people. But what we did is we did not lead the respondents, we simply gave them 5 white spaces. And they could write in Chinese or they could write in English. And they wrote down 83 different words over the 203 people, and we accumulated that down to about 56. Interestingly, integrity was around 52. So let's have a look at what Chinese look for in a leader, because if you're going to build a strong leadership team here in China that's cross-cultural, you need to make sure that you're matching the culture. So number 1, most important, was compassion. Compassion. Now, I didn't see that on the list from Harvard Business School. I didn't see it on any list from any of the MBA programs offered across the world or here in China. But compassion was number 1, and it was significantly number 1. Caring, considerate, sensitive, and kind. Wen Jiabao? Yeah. Wen Jiabao, does he sound compassionate, kind? I think for those of you who have seen Wen Jiabao in times of trouble, he's the first man on the ground often with a pair of slacks, no tie, a hat, and a tear. And he's the compassionate one. Interestingly, on the other end of the spectrum, there is strength, authoritative, strong, powerful. This is the other side of the equation. Hu Jintao? Would that be Hu Jintao? So it's interesting. If you're a manager managing a sales team today, you've got to be two personalities. You've got to be mother and father. You've got to be Wen Jiabao and Hu Jintao. You've got to be the teacher who is both fair but tough. And are you? Because I'm not. I'm certainly very strong, very authoritative. I sometimes, my wife tells me that I scare some of our staff, but I'm not so caring. And that's my weakness. And that's why I'm part of the problem. And maybe you are too. Now, some of the similarities were there. So visionary was one. We saw that Chinese are looking for visionary. Charismatic was interesting. It wasn't in the Western attitudes of leadership. So Chinese are really looking for a friend. Not only someone who's compassionate, but someone who's friendly. Someone who's there who can have a beer or a baijiu. Open-minded was something that was shared by both cultures, the West and the Chinese. But what was interesting was number 6, which was intelligent. Intelligent. Now, many of the Chinese, when I bring this up, they say, yes, of course, I want my leader to be the most intelligent. And meritocracy says that the most intelligent people should move up the ranks. Sadly, in China, this is handicapped by guanxi. So we also know that in a culture of meritocracy, guanxi is the weight that pushes people up to the top when they shouldn't be. And so we have a habit of looking up to leaders in China and thinking that they are the most intelligent, but at the same time, I think we'll all be honest here, we know that that's not always the case, because people get jobs not because of merit all the time. It's also a problem because a lot of your junior salespeople will be looking at you as the expert. And if you're a year or 2 years into the organisation, if you've just arrived in China, that can cause some problems because you don't have the field experience. You don't have the ground experience. But they're going to look to you for assistance, which is a problem. And sometimes we see that responsibility leaves with the manager or leaves with the boss. And when the boss leaves for the day or leaves for a business trip or leaves to go travelling, responsibility disappears. Because people are unwilling to make decisions because they don't feel that they are as intelligent as you, the boss. And that can be problems for delegation and productivity and efficiency. Number 7, good communication. I think we'll agree that that's important. Responsible, important. Motivational. Now this is a relevant one because in your job applicants, your job descriptions and your advertisements for a salesperson, you're probably looking for someone who is self-driven, proactive, right? And yet the Chinese white collars are looking for someone who can motivate them, who can boost their motivation. These are not proactive people, these are people who are reactive. That can be part of the problem. And the last one is decisive, which will come into play a little bit later when I talk about how to change towards a positive sales team. All right, so that's the background. That's part of the challenge that we face today. We also have some issues that we have to be aware of. These are facts from other people's research. China today has one of the lowest engagement levels. And what does engagement level mean? It's a human resource term. Engagement level means you bring your A game to the day. You bring your A game to the meetings, to your week at work. But according to Blessing White, China has the lowest engagement and highest disengagement of all regions surveyed globally. And this was supported by a Hay Group research, which says that Mexico ranked the highest and China ranked equal third last, alongside, dare I say it, the UK. I can say this because my mother's British. Have you ever had good customer service in Britain? It's very rare, isn't it? And it's probably an Australian serving you as well. So being third last is not something to be proud of, particularly when it's right next to the UK. So here's our issue. Our issue is that we have a group of people who are differently, who prefer to be managed differently than us, who have a different culture. We have a group of people who have come through the education system and have essentially been spoon-fed the answers towards their gaokao, towards their university graduation, and they've popped out and they're working for you. And now you're managing those people. And now you're finding that they have a very low engagement. Well, that's because they're looking for motivation. They're looking for you to motivate them. Sure, they can be proactive, or they can say they are proactive, but you have to motivate them. As a consequence, what do we know? Here are the facts. The facts are that China has one of the highest turnovers of staff in the world. One of the positive side effects of the global financial crisis, or the GFC, was that there was a reduction in turnover for all the other countries. So while Europe and America used to have high numbers of turnover of staff, the global financial crisis made job security paramount. It made people cautious of job hopping. It made them more loyal to their current employer. So we see an average of 4% according to Roland Berger. But in China, it's 19%. So imagine you have 100 employees. Every year, you're going to lose 19 of them. Every year, an entire department disappears. 19 people. It's quite possible. But it doesn't happen constantly. It doesn't happen a few people each month, say 1 or 2 people each month. It actually happens in peaks. So this is the perfect time to come to an event like this, because this is post-Chinese New Year. Chinese New Year, according to Zhaopin.com, which is a work advertising job board, says that directly after the Chinese New Year, there is a peak of new resumes and new CVs on their job board. Directly after Chinese New Year. Now, why is that? Why is there a sudden increase in people thinking, I don't want to work here anymore, I want to move to another position? Well, I blame the 13th month. Now, for some of you in the room, you may not be aware of what the 13th month is. But for those of you, I apologise for telling you to suck eggs. 13th month is that bonus that you achieve for just turning up. That's right, in China today, there is a bonus that you give to an employee because they turned up for 12 months before. They didn't do a great job, that's not important. They didn't break into new markets, they didn't hit sales targets, they didn't blow apart KPIs. They just turned up. And they turn up, and on the 13th month, which is typically January, or it could be February, depending on Chinese New Year, they'll get a bonus, and that bonus is typically 1 month's salary, and then some. And what do? They quit, because they've got some spending money. They've got some money to tie them over for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. And at the end of the day, they can always crash on mum's couch as well. So there's a peak. So right now, in your sales teams, you've probably experienced this. You've probably experienced a large percentage of your sales team have resigned. Or, more importantly, they're about to resign. So be ready, because this is what happens just after Chinese New Year. So I knew this, and I've known this over the last 12 years. So if we're going to build a successful sales team, we need to know the culture. Will it be seamless? No. It's not going to be seamless. I don't believe that any team can be seamless. I believe that you have to have strong seams, because you don't want this to happen. You don't want trousers to be broken. The reality is that we need to create a team that is malleable, that can bend, that can stretch, sometimes put a lot of pressure on those seams, but not break, as this picture shows. So, one of the first things I did is I removed the 13th month. Easy, right? Well, not so easy because it's culture, isn't it? And I just told you that culture is a sacred cow. It took me about 2.5 years to get rid of 13th month. And what I did now is I spread that 13th month over typically 6 months. And so bonuses come in the middle of the year and smaller bonuses come at the end. We also give bonuses per quarter. So that's 4 bonuses through the year. So it's the same amount of money. In fact, in our case, it's actually more money because you have to sell this, you have to make it positive. It's more money, and the benefit is we have a lower resignation rate around that Chinese New Year. So, as I said, you're here today because your sales teams could be improved. To be improved, we need to change. To change, we need to change the culture. And culture is very difficult to change. It's a sacred cow. So I like to borrow from John Cotter, who is perhaps the world-leading expert on change and transforming change. And I've studied his work over the years, and I've certainly applied it, perhaps not actively, but I've looked back and thought, these are the things that worked in my team, and it makes sense according to John Cotter. So let's have a look at the 8 steps that you will follow if you're trying to break that culture, that negative culture that you're experiencing in your company today. So the first rule by John Cotter is establishing a sense of urgency. Here's our problem. Again, the culture of China is a harmonious culture, 和谐, right? So we've heard this word 和谐. 和谐, harmony, is everywhere. They even call the fast train the harmonious train. Jing'an district is the harmonious district. It's everywhere. The problem is that harmony also creates the misconception that change is bad. And that's not correct. Change is good. And if you do a Gert Hofstede cultural analysis of Chinese, you'll find that Chinese are actually quite willing to change. But those that don't want them to change use the word 和谐 and harmony. We need to create a sense of urgency very quickly. We need to make sure people understand that change is important. But people will keep falling back on that harmony. Let me give you an example of what I mean by the negative aspects of harmony. So I live near a corner store. It's a family mart, and I often go there and buy bread and beer and soft drinks. And typically there's a small line of 3 or 4 people. And of course, one person who's just come into the store, walks straight up to the counter, flashes some money at the salesperson, and the salesperson serves that person instead of the 3 or 4 people waiting in line. Why? 和谐, harmony. You see, if the salesperson says, no, get in the back of the line, they're breaking harmony, aren't they? Well, no, they're not. Because there's 3 or 4 other people who are now very unharmonious. And that's the problem with harmonious, is harmony can be seen through the wrong pair of eyes. It needs to be seen as something that is positive, that change is positive, and it should not be feared. So, create a sense of urgency. Map out each stage that you're going to follow, and make sure you communicate this well. Step 2 is form powerful guiding coalitions. Now, one of the values of my company is respect. Now, why did I create this word? It was because some years ago, there was an us and them culture within my organisation. It's very easy to have an us and them culture. You have the foreigners on one side and you have the Chinese on the other side. And when it's not, when it's a mixture of Chinese, then you have the people from the north of China and the people from the south of China. And if they're all from Shanghai, you have the people from Pudong and the people from Puxi. And there's a Chinese expression which says, I'd rather have a bed in Puxi than a house in Pudong. So it highlights that there is very much an us and them attitude here in China. So what do you do? How do you avoid this as you move forward? Well, my company, once upon a time, was Andy Clark, English, and Morry Morgan, Australian. Chinese will say Chapador, same. Today, my company is made up of three foreigners and 3 Chinese as directors. We have 3 foreigners, we have 3 Chinese. We have 3 women, we have 3 men. And that's what I mean by creating this avoidance of us and them, because it's so easy to create an enemy, especially if that enemy doesn't look like you. So do your best to form a guiding coalition when you change your sales teams. Second one is the vision. So Chinese want a vision, they told you that. In that survey, 203 Chinese, visionary is something that they want. But they need to know what your vision is. Don't keep it to yourself. Don't stick it in the inside of your desk under the cabinet. It needs to be published. And in my organisation, back in 2005, we started publishing what we call the strategy document. The strategy document is an 80-page, printed on our photocopier, bound by our administration assistant, and it's given to everybody within our organisation, even the receptionists. The IEs don't read English, but they could get this if they wanted as well. The strategy document maps out everything that we do. It's not an employee guide, it's a strategy for the organisation. And some people in the room might say, but Morry, that's dangerous. What if that falls into the hands of the wrong people? Or what if it doesn't fall into the hands of the right people? What if your salespeople have no clue where you're going? Well, they're not going to know how to get there. And as I said, when the manager leaves the office, so does responsibility. Unless you have a clear strategy, a clear set of policies, a clear set of rules that the others left behind can follow without getting into trouble, because it helps them look intelligent. So publish something, make it very clear, and don't be afraid. For 12 years, I've been publishing my trade secrets, basically in this book, and it has never negatively affected our business. Number 4, communicate the vision. A couple of years ago, 2004, I had an incident with one of my senior salespeople. We were organising an event similar to this, and we had done this 9 times before, each month over 9 months. I went to the venue myself, separately from the rest of the sales team. And then 30 minutes later, my sales team arrived, and they walked through the door, and in their hands, my sales team were carrying nothing. There was nothing in their hands, no brochures, no marketing collateral, nothing. And I looked at the salesperson. She was 25 at the time. She was my head sales. And I said, well, where is all the collateral? Where's all the marketing material? And she said to me, oh, nobody told me. Nobody told me. Now, she'd done this 9 times before, but she needed someone to tell her to do it for a 10th time. As I told you earlier, I'm not compassionate, and I blew up. I became angry, as you might imagine. I exploded and I screamed at her, what do you mean nobody told you? Are you stupid? Are you crazy? We've done this 9 times. And I can see people nodding, and you know that this is something that happens quite a lot. And she went into the bathroom and she cried. I know this because she told me, I didn't follow her. She went into the bathroom and she cried in front of the mirror. And she said, I'm going to quit. I can't be spoken to like this. I'm leaving the company. She came out. She was poised. Tears were gone. And she didn't quit. And she stayed on for another 2 years. But I realised at that point that I need to create a culture of talk. T-A-L-K. Because I can't expect that people understand everything I say. I mean, I'm an Australian. I mumble half the time. So I need to tell you and tell you and tell you and tell you again. I'm not going to just say it face-to-face, verbally. I'm going to use email as well. Or, as some of you may have already subscribed to, yammer.com, which is on the screen in front of you. Write that down. It's a fantastic tool. It's like Facebook for enterprises, for internal use. And it's not blocked. T is tell. Tell, email, phone call, face-to-face, Yammer, MSN. Tell and tell and tell again. And if someone says they don't know, you tell them again. You don't get angry, because guess what? You're speaking English most of the time, and this is a second language to them. So let's not be too arrogant. A is ask. The responsibility falls on your shoulders to tell, but the responsibility also falls on their shoulders to ask. Nobody told me, she said. Nobody told you? You should have asked. You're going to an event. Send me an SMS. Give me a phone call. Do whatever you wish. Just let me know. L is listen. Actively listen. What does that mean? No, it doesn't mean that you talk with one eye on your computer screen and one eye looking at the person. It's not looking at your latest Weibo or LinkedIn updates while trying to have a conversation. It is actively listening. It is paraphrasing what the other person has said. So, what you're saying is that I need to bring marketing collateral. Yes, that's listening. And if you TAL, guess what? Your organization begins to know. K. Tell, ask, listen, know. This is part of your culture, and it creates a strong communication for any type of future vision. We all get frustrated, and even just yesterday, one of my managers said, "Oh, I've already told her that," but he said it under his breath. And he looked at me and he smiled, and I smiled as well, because that is something that he can only keep to himself. He can't share that attitude with anybody else, because we have this culture. Now, the next step is we need to empower people. Responsibility leaves with the manager in China. People are afraid of taking responsibility. So you need to use like a RACI model, R-A-C-I, responsibility, accountability, consult, or inform. You need to give people budgets, clear budgets, budgets that they can see with a press of a button, budgets that you can review every month, and they can see how much they haven't spent, because actually that's the problem. They haven't spent the budget because they didn't make a decision to spend the money. And you look at them and you say, you've got all this money, you keep complaining about why you're not hitting sales targets. You keep complaining about what our competitors are doing, but you've spent no money. Or 50 RMB on a coffee. What are you doing? What are you going to do to be part of the solution? You empower them, give them the choice. It takes time. And then you need to measure that, because as we know, you can't manage if you don't measure. You can't manage if you don't measure. You need to measure the checking. And what do I mean by checking? In a sales team, checking is when the customer is thinking about you. So there's about 80 people in this room right now, and you're all thinking about me, Morry Morgan. So therefore, if I say you should buy my services, it's very easy for you to say yes or no, but at least you have an option to say yes or no. Sadly, while all of you are here, none of your customers are thinking about you, because you are what we call in uncheck. You are not talking to a customer right now, and if you are, you're very rude. Turn your mobile phone off, please. It's a check. A check means that the customer is thinking about you, and a check could be an email, a phone call, a face-to-face meeting. But a lot of salespeople are in uncheck all the time. They are cleaning their desk, arranging for a future meeting, they're brainstorming some ideas, but they're not checking the customer. So you need to empower them, and you need to make sure that you measure that. Number 6, China is a very short-term country, in that we like to see gains quickly. As I said, 19% turnover. That means that 19% of the people won't be with you next year. And therefore, they need to see short-term gains along that journey as you change. So as you change the culture of your organization, you need to openly reward the positive behaviors. For us, we have a new a CRM system. I was talking to Shirley just from CCH right before this presentation, and I was talking about our CRM system. We base it on Sugar. Sugar is an open platform. It means that we have a lot of control over how we can manipulate the data. And when a salesperson puts the data in for a contract perfectly, 100% perfect, they get 100 RMB. And that 100 RMB comes out of a cabinet, which should be locked, I think, but it comes out of the cabinet, and that 100 RMB is given to that salesperson face to face by the operations director. And then we often take a photo. And that photo goes onto Yammer, because we're trying to reinforce the culture that perfect is what we want. So openly reward good behaviour. If you've got a new CRM system, what are you going to do to show that you reward this? And then publish those rewards on Yammer or other platforms that you may have to use. Number 7, consolidate those improvements and produce more change. As I mentioned, one of our cultures, one of our values is respect. The other one is talk. So I mentioned tell, ask, listen, no. Talk is one of our cultures. And every year we give a talk award. And typically it's a salesperson who wins this award. 2 years ago, the salesperson who won this award was very embarrassed. He stood up and he grabbed the microphone and he took his iPod that he'd won and the trophy, and he apologised for talking too much. And we all said simultaneously, all of our team said, no, we want you to talk. We want you to share your ideas. We want you to ask questions. And even when he won the award, he was apologetic. So hold these mid-year awards and emphasise these changes. These changes are positive, and perhaps reward them with some form of monetary benefit. Number 8, and the last one, is you need to institutionalise this. I go to a lot of sales meetings, and these are companies that are often quite new. They may have moved into new premises, and their offices are beautiful. They're clean. I would call them minimalist. Minimalist. The walls are white, and there's nothing on them. If you're trying to create a cultural change, you need to expose your salespeople to that change all the time. If you've got a white wall in the corridor, fill that white wall with pictures of change. We do in my company. We have the values of a salesperson. We have the TALK policy. We have the REDS policies. All values that we want in our staff. So make it clear, stick it on the wall, and make this sales process clear with the CRM as well. So that's the challenge. And those are the processes that you need to do. And over the years, my company has grown from 2 people, Clark and Morgan. And now, we're much bigger. Well, we're not enormous, we're 30 people. But we went from 2 people to 30 people. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, I'm not the general manager anymore. I'm the marketing director. I'm doing something that I love. And more importantly, the company is perpetual, self-perpetuating. The policies and the processes and the culture that we have in our company today mean that I don't have to input energy anymore. It is self-perpetuating. So those 30 people work for me. They work for themselves, and they're motivated, and they're energized. And my boss, who's an American, is younger than me, and he does a greater job managing that team than I do. And the system works very well. We went from 1 office up to 8 offices, and then down to 3 offices. In that time, we became more profitable. We went from a profit margin very small to a much higher profit margin. We have a very successful succession plan. So now, within our organisation, we're able to move people sideways and up, and they know the pathway. They have a career. And ultimately, as I mentioned, we went from a profit margin which is not even 1%. I was being a little bit optimistic with that number. It was barely 1%. And today we have a profit margin of 16%, which I think anyone would be very happy with. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here today to tell you that there is no such thing as building a seamless sales team. You need the seams, because the seams allow you to bend and stretch, to cause friction, to have tension. But be aware that you're climbing a hill, and that hill is called culture. And if you're going to change the culture of an organisation, be aware that it is a sacred cow, and it's something that takes time, and that you're part of that problem. So hopefully, you'll take away some of the lessons I've learned, you'll look at yourself and your personality and the way that you manage, and you too will be able to build a strong sales team. Thank you.